You know what? Let's talk about monsters. I still want to know about the one that went camping with you. I still want to know what happened when their instincts took over. The rest of you know that they had monster tendencies yet, or this your first time? Did they just wake up in the middle of the night to him missing and just a monster roaming around their camp, and they don't know? What about the beast makes them clue in that it's their friend? And how do they try to calm him down to get him back? I want to know. So, give me the goods.
Guys, let's talk about monsters.
Well, hello. Isn't this fascinating? I think we have a very special Let's Talk About Monsters tonight. It all started with you following me. And what none of you guys really know about me is that I'm weird when it comes to electronics on a good day. I am known to pop many a street lamp, light bulb, computer. My essence, haunting your For You page is not a stretch. You're lucky I haven't figured out how to crawl through the screen yet. It's okay, dear watcher. You'll never escape. As a purveyor of those who hunt and haunt, what better thing for me to do than hunt and haunt? And so I will, and I do, and I shall. Whether you like it or not. Sorry, not sorry. Ciao, sweets. Until the next time we meet. Alright guys, let's talk about monsters. Tell me about the frost giant. The one that came to town and brought an entire blizzard with it. The one that demands to the townspeople payment of warmth before it goes on its merry way. Bonfires are made in their name. And who, one fateful blizzardy day, you personally stumble across. In a huff, decide against your better judgment to give them a nice, warm hug. You know, just so that he'll leave. And whom, upon looking up after doing so, realize that you might be one of the first people to ever see a frost giant blush. Intrigued, you give them another hug. And they decide to happily take this payment and leave your town alone on the condition that this becomes a regular thing. And you, not being one to argue or back down from adventure, decide to pack your bags and leave with them. Have fun. Alright, let's talk about monsters. I want to know about the one you're having dinner with. You come home from a busy day, excited by the smell wafting from the kitchen. You've been living together for a while now, and, like the fact that their nose allows them to forage very, very well. Only the best ingredients for when you come back home from work. For them, it's freshly skinned rabbit meat. And for you, lovely seasoning. You wrap your arms around their otherworldly waist, and they chirrup and krrr at the touch. Both of you oozing into the small amount of heat that you make between you. It's domestic and sweet. Just as the food is. I mean, holy crap. 1,000 years is a lot of time to have on your hands, so it makes sense, but geez. They say you'd taste better, and you blush, knowing that if it was anyone else, you'd have every reason to run. Not a bad way to spend an evening. Let's talk about monsters. I want to know about the one about the snake down your throat. Not in that way. You're going in for a medical procedure. You're about to be anesthetized when you notice something strange. All of the equipment seems to be connected by threads, much like dentist equipment is by tubes, but these look fleshy. The last thing that you see before you pass out is them moving around on their own, like spindly limbs attached to the one that put the needle in you. You end up being one of the unlucky few that wake up in the middle of the procedure, but still have no sense of your limbs. As what's supposed to be a camera that went down your throat comes back up from your esophagus, you find that there is an eyeball attached to a spindly limb. It blinks back at you. The doctor is covered head to toe with gloves, mask, and goggles. And now you start to know why. Let's talk about monsters. There's been a buzzing in your ear for months. You've spent night after night after night trying so hard to get rid of it, massaging your ears and hitting the back of your head with your fingers repeatedly in order to try and get rid of it. But you only just noticed something. It's only in your room, and it's only in this house. When you leave this space and go far enough away, the ringing stops. And so you turn your head slightly to the left and listen. And you can hear it, as you always can. But when you move your head slightly further, it becomes a little bit more dim. And so you turn your ears to where they normally point, and you see outside the power lines are shaking. The wind has been moving them for months, but reader, it is not the wind. Let's talk about monsters. I want to know about the one that made you breakfast. Runny eggs with a side of toast, their claws accidentally nicking one of the yellow orbs when plating. You give them points for trying. They did their best. They lick up the side of their finger. You can't help but wonder if they've done the same thing with blood before. Probably. What about with other things? Or what they would look like cleaning up something else entirely? You shudder at the thought. Get your mind out of the gutter, YN. That or, give me the goods. What if I told you there was an immortal body-snatching society? You're a young human, about the age of 12, running for your life from your mother. It is revealed over time that she belongs to a society of immortals, who promise their children to one another in order to transfer their consciousness into at a particular age. Your age. After watching what happened with your sister, you've given her the slip multiple times. But eventually, at the end of your adventures, end up at the cult house anyway. Be it some destiny-fulfilling shit or, prophecy or whatever. Maybe it's just insanely bad luck. Duty to take it down. You get there, undetected, hiding under the dining table as the adults chat about their plans. About their immortal lives. About their children. About their children. Turns out, if your mother doesn't find you, her friend Alexandria will not have a body to grow old in anew. And the society will expel your mother. How many times have they done this? Alright guys, let's talk about monsters. You've just moved into a new apartment. It's an old apartment, but it's new to you. And like every old apartment, it has its quirks. This one in particular has a faucet that drips, which isn't so bad, and you can get a plumber. It's okay. It's fine. I mean, not that you're the type to get a plumber. You're one of those DIY types. You would get in there yourself. So one night, as you hear it, drip, 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 you decide to take your toolbox and your rusty, trusty wrench and take a look. As you twist the lug nut loose from the pipe, water sprays absolutely everywhere, even though that the pressure was turned off. And it continues to gush even as you take down the pipe itself. Your heart sinks as you know that you're never going to get that damage deposit back. It finally stops spurting and you put it back in place, looking like it's totally fine, but not looking behind you as the water itself slowly rises up. The aquatic beast waits for you to turn around.
Let's talk about monsters. There's an old library in town that you're obsessed with. You've perused almost every section at least once, but the librarian has a secret that she keeps in the back. And decides, you know what? You would appreciate it. Intrigued, you just have to follow her. She tells you to stay after hours and you comply, and she leads you to a nook in the nonfiction section. There's a very particular bookcase that's always looked like it's embedded into the wall. She pushes one of the panels and the bookcase moves away. You are both greeted by cold, wet air as you both gaze into a place that has been forgotten by nearly everyone. She lights a flashlight, though the sandstone walls are lined with torches if need be. She explains that she's never been able to get past a certain point before feeling dizzy and having to turn back. She wants to see if you can continue and tell her what's on the other side.
Alright, let's talk about monsters. I want a tiny octopus beast. A little Octo-Mer, little bitey, gets out of their tank and eats the other fish when they're upset. And you and them go on little adventures. You have a closable fish bowl attached to a net that you can put on your body. You've trained them to steal shiny things, so you're rich. But over the years, they start to grow, and little Octo-Mer becomes big Leviathan that loves you a little too much. You buy and customize an aquarium that's able to fit them and that they can also go out into the ocean when they want to with the money from the shinies that they stole. And now they still give you shinies, but the shinies are now from the deep. They're these old ancient artifacts, and they'll still get out of their tank and eat the other fish when they're upset. You need to pay them more attention. And they follow you around like a little puppy in the aquarium as you're walking by their tank. And you have to be careful because their hugs are really strong. You cannot escape if they don't let you.
It's New Year's! So, let's talk about monsters. You, dear one, are going to a party. It's going to be festive and nice with champagne and things. You're all decked out in your nicest court as you get there, and where is everybody? There isn't a person in sight. Not at the house. Not outside. Nowhere. You begin investigating, taking your trusty, dusty, handy knife, wifey. Going through the unlocked doors, down to the basement where there is a cellar that you know is always locked, and where you can finally hear something. Don't know what, but something. You pick the lock and go down. And as you go downstairs, you start to hear the voices of the people that you knew were coming. When you finally figure out that they're saying run, the door shuts behind you with a growl.
Let's talk about monsters. You're trying to escape an abuser. Living on the edge of the forest was your idea. So when you packed what little you could and ran, it made it that much harder for them to find you, because you at least knew this place. You knew it like the back of your hand. Still, you weren't expecting them to take the car through the woods. And in the night, as the high beams hit you, standing like a doe in fright, all you can think of is, this is it. They're gonna kill me this time. That is, until you hear the whispers. First small and slow, and then building up into a crescendo all around you, as a form builds itself out of the shadows of the wood, as it first rips your abuser from their car, and then rips them limb from limb. The lights from the high beams don't even touch it as it sets its own glowing eyes onto you, materializing more properly with a bow. Yeah, terribly sorry I didn't introduce myself sooner. Guys, let's talk about monsters. You're a rock star living at a shady hotel. The staff all know you by name, and you know how to get away with anything. One day, as you're finishing raiding the kitchen, you see a door that you haven't really noticed before. It looks rusted almost from head to toe. Like this hotel is bad, but not that bad. So of course, you being the daredevil maverick that you are, you go and investigate. Bringing your armful of rolls with you, you open up to the darkness of a night that you've never seen, in a world that you have never known. And seeing as you feel that life is starting to get boring to you anyway, decide to take the plunge into a new one. But, brave little rock star, you can't go back. Too busy taking in the alien skies and the shapes of two different trees, intermingling into one singular figure. The door behind you vanishes and there's a cabin up ahead.
Alright guys, let's talk about monsters. You wake up sopping wet in a cave. It's illuminated only by the hole that you fell through that is far too high for you to reach. In front of you is a pool of water that goes farther down than you could ever hope to see. As you wonder how you survived, something breaks the surface. Eyes glittering in the dim light, it doesn't go past its nose in order to hesitantly watch you. See what you do next. Your voice echoes in the far too empty space as you greet it subtly with a hello? It startles, but bubbles back at you. A muffled gurgle trying to imitate your own voice with a hello, which startles you back in turn. Can you help me, you ask. It disappears underneath the surface. A dead squid then shoots out of the pool and lands itself in front of you. Alright guys, let's talk about monsters. You're best friends with the owner of a nightclub. However, you yourself have never been to this nightclub. They keep saying, you really shouldn't go. It's not that great. Shh, you're fine. Go have a normal life, kiddo. One day you decide, screw it, I'm gonna see what the fuss is about anyway, and you go. You know what? It's your usual nightclub fare. What was the big deal about this? However, as you're observing the scene, you notice something. Across the way, there's someone trying to spike another person's drink. You start moving closer to help them when you notice your friend. They wrap their arm around the fellow and you overhear them say something about a VIP room. Meanwhile, the bartender takes the spiked drink and remakes it. You follow your friend in the lech to what you originally thought was a wall. With the right knock, you follow them inside. Your friend spots you as the creep joins other creeps, running to you before you're caught in the vampire feast. Shouldn't have come.
Alright guys, let's talk about monsters. You're in the middle of a cornfield. How you got there is no one's business, but you've befriended the Scarecrow. You shoo the crows away as they talk about the nightfall and how the stars shine inside of it. So you've already gotten pretty close at this point. Perhaps you harbor some feelings. And there's a very particularly stubborn crow today. It just won't leave your friend alone. So you climb up onto the pole that they're stuck on with their arms outstretched and hug them close as you shoo, shoo, shoo. They say something about you being warmer than they expected you to be. And you laugh with a bit of a blush, with your arms still wrapped around their neck in support. They say they'd hug you back if they only could, wiggling their hands at the end of the beams to make their point. Somehow you've gathered up the courage to say that you have enough hug for the both of you, which is very cheesy. Your faces are incredibly close to one another. And slowly, softly, you go in for the kiss. Guys, let's talk about monsters. We need to talk about the book. The book you found in your attic. Thing was never meant to be found. But no, you just had to smash open a bloody wall and find it over a piece of dust. You know, as if finding it in a plastic bag wasn't enough. Opening it, it's this really old tome of the bloody Holy Bible. You keep it closed for a reason! But no, of course not. Curiosity just had to get the better of it. And you casually just decide, oh yeah, I'm gonna release this curse into my household. The inside is covered with pages with writing you don't understand. No, it's not the translated Bible. There are also extra scritches and markings in what you could only probably imagine would be blood. And that's not even mentioning the extra pages. You know, the ones that were probably left there by the person who left it there in the first place. Codes to decipher the hidden meanings. God, is that a soul contract?
Alright guys, let's talk about monsters. You've just walked into a crime scene! As a fan-fangled detective, you haven't seen anything quite like this. Bloodied imprints of each body on the ceiling, right above where they seem to have fallen, as if suspended and held before being released. Your friend and mentor seem strangely unfazed, lighting a cigarette to add to the mood. When you ask their thoughts on the matter, they shrug. Apparently, kept under wraps, there's been an anniversary of this going on for the last 250 years. Even though it's still active, it's considered a cold case. As cold as the bodies, whose faces look as if they've been dead for centuries. Even though they've already ID'd one of them as the bartender you spoke to just last week. As you look over the body of your old acquaintance, you notice a crumpled piece of paper in their hand. Scribbled on it reads one word. Faust. Surely it couldn't be. Alright, let's talk about monsters. Okay, so I've always really liked the idea of summoning circles, like summoning like creatures or demons or whatever to be the size of whatever the summoning circle is. And like mortals that don't realize this and like create either a gigantic summoning circle or like something that's like super, super tiny and like this all-powerful beast that comes out as either like a leviathan, like big old big, or like itty-bitty, depending on the person that summoned them. So either you end up with like a little pocket demon that ends up being able to like hang out with you on your shoulder or whatever, or you're the little guy and the thing is massive, all-encompassing and surrounding, so long as they remain in the circle. Unless they're able to escape, in which case, God only knows. So yeah, big fan. This is Pippin, by the way. Give me the goods.